Well, hello and welcome to the show. I'm so glad you've joined us again this week. I'm excited. We're going to talk about some exercises that if you take the initiative to practice them are going to change the way you ride forever. That's coming up right here on Discovering the Horseman Within.
Gonna take a ride on one true horse.
You know, there's two ways of riding. You can ride by accident or you can ride by intent. And it's really up to you to determine which way you're going to ride. If you just kind of enjoy relaxation and going along, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, that's okay. But if you really want to ride better, you have to just make the decision to change the way you're riding, and these exercises are going to do that. If I probably had, $1 for every time someone has said, Ken, I want to be able to ride better, or I want to be able to ride the way you do, I would probably, be riding on the beach in the Bahamas right now. So these three exercises are simple things that I do that make a difference for me. The first one I do is I put weight in my feet. Now, a lot of times people say, well, Ken, I put weight in my feet. I ride with my heels down and I'm standing on my feet even though I'm sitting on my seat. I've got weight in my feet. Let me show you the difference. As I lope deuce around here, my weight is in my feet and it's carrying me, and I'm going where the saddle goes. Now, if I stop riding with my feet, I tend to squeeze with my knees. When you squeeze with your knees, you begin to bounce. And I'm not doing this on purpose. The harder I bounce, the harder my horse goes, and things start to get out of control. So I want to really practice sitting with weight in my feet. I want my feet down. So your equitation instructor is going to tell you don't want to over-exaggerate too much. I'm going to tell you if you ride outside in the real world, you do want to over-exaggerate some things too much. And one of the things I tell my students all the time is if this doesn't hurt, you're not doing it right. It's going to make you sore for a little while at first, but I turn my toes out, I push my heels down. And what I've done in essence is I have made a plane, a flat board that goes under my horse's belly or through my horse's belly, depending on where your legs are. And my feet are on each side of it, and I'm balancing. Much like you would if you were on a skateboard or a snowboard, I'm standing on my feet and I'm balancing. My saddle is securely tied to my horse. Where my horse goes, my saddle is going to go, okay? So I've got my feet on the boards of my stirrup and I'm standing there. Now I'm totally relaxed. I can watch the Super Bowl this way. My son and I can argue over which team is better, because I can sit here like this for a long, long time. But your stirrups, in order to do that, have to be shortened. Most people like their legs pretty straight, it's a little more comfortable, and they ride a little bit longer stirrup. I shorten my stirrups up, and I get a good bend in my leg, and I push down on my heel so that I go where that horse goes. Will it make your knees hurt right here? A little bit. It'll take some getting used to. There's an old saying, and that is, when your knees hurt, your stirrups are too short. When your butt hurts, your stirrups are too long. And when everything hurts, you've been riding for a while. So that's kind of the way it is. It's not always going to be simple and easy. But this is an exercise that I think makes a huge difference. And I want you to watch again as I lope around here. Or let's trot. Let's trot. As I trot, all of the shock is taken up in my leg. I'm not getting a ton of bounce up here. Now watch what happens when I quit standing on my feet. We did this a minute ago, but look at the difference in the bounce. Okay, all of a sudden, the bounce changes. Okay, so I put my feet back down and I stand there, and I have to focus on that. I really do. I think about it a bunch, right? I think a lot about where are my feet and what are they doing. I don't want them way out here in front of me. Get your shoulders behind the ride. When you do this, you're gonna get a lot of whiplash. I don't want them way back behind me. This pushes you up over the saddle horn, you're gonna fall off. I want them underneath of me, slightly forward. If I look down, I can see my toes past my knee. My toes are turned out, my heels are down, weight in my feet. Then all I have to do when I stop is just stop, right? My horse trips, things don't go perfect, doesn't matter. My seat is secure because of my feet. Once I've got my feet locked in place, I'm gonna move up to my shoulders. Now my shoulders are critically important. They determine where the ride goes with this horse, okay? I tell people all the time, we'll turn sideways to the camera here. I don't care what you do this way. You can slump all you want this way. But what you can't do is this stuff here. This starts getting you in trouble. One of the reasons people don't lope their horses much is because they're not comfortable at it. One of the reasons they're not comfortable at it is because they don't do it much. It's a vicious circle. So we've got to get you to where you're comfortable sitting in the saddle and changing the way you're riding, okay? So as we take off here, what I like to do is lift my inside shoulder, set my horse up, use my outside leg and say, hey, let's lope. Now I want to keep this position in everything I'm doing. I keep this shoulder up and that keeps my body square. And I lope around here no matter how fast we go, right? We speed it up, I keep this shoulder up. We're riding around here, we slow it down, we make the circle smaller, and what's gonna happen here, you watch. We're gonna stop and change directions. Watch my shoulder. We came around pretty suddenly. That shoulder's up. By keeping that shoulder up, it keeps me out of my horse's way. So as I come along this fence here, I'm actually just gonna change directions quickly. I'm gonna shift shoulders, bring him around. My shoulder is up. You notice that? We're gonna do that again. Keep that shoulder up and it allows your horse to stay balanced. Balance is so critical and so important to your horse. We're gonna come in here, I shift shoulders, lift my inside shoulder up. When he comes out of there, my shoulder is already up and out of his way. Balance, okay, first of all, you need to understand your horse is way stronger than you are. And he's way more athletic than you are. So he can balance without your balance. But the more you're balanced, the better job you do, the better job your horse is able to do. If you start slopping around in the saddle like this, it starts making it hard for him and for you. And you're bouncing around all over here. Your horse doesn't know where he's going. You don't know where he's going. And it starts making a very insecure ride. So in order to keep that from happening, one of the things that I think about a lot, I try to push the top of my shoulder up to my ear, my inside ear. And sometimes it looks ridiculous. And I don't ride like this all the time, but I practice like this quite a bit, where I pick that shoulder up. That way, when I come up here and I set my horse down, I lift my inside shoulder right there. And we go the other way. And that keeps me from leaning. Let me show you what people typically do, especially when they start speeding up their ride and wanting to do a faster rollback. A lot of times it'll look like this. They'll ride in here, stop, dive over here, and it just makes that horse get really sloppy. It doesn't allow him to be clean. So focus on it. It's pretty simple. We're gonna elevate that inside shoulder, bring it in here, stop, bring that horse's front end around, and lope. And just like that, it's changed your riding. Simple little thing, not a big deal. It's really not any bigger a deal than pushing weight on your feet, but it makes a big difference to your horse. You're balanced, it allows him to be more balanced and more athletic. You know, when it comes to changing your riding, the biggest piece is just taking the initiative to say, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna make a difference, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna practice this. Nothing happens overnight. It all takes practice. So we talked about weighting your feet, we talked about keeping your shoulders up. We're gonna drop back and talk about your hands for just a minute, and then we're gonna move on from there. When I ride, I try to envision that my hands are handcuffed together. Occasionally, they get further apart, but I like to think of my hands being handcuffed together. Why? Because I really want to ride my horse one-handed. And if I don't ride with my hands close together, I'll never be able to ride one-handed. So I just practice keeping my hands close together. I also practice keeping my hands low. Now there's an old saying, low hands, low-headed horse. High hands, high-headed horse. Not necessarily true. I can pick my hands up here and you watch. My horse drops his head down there nice and soft. What really establishes your horse's headset is you. You determine where you're going to release him and what you're going to accept. But when I'm riding, for the most part, I try to keep my hands low and slow. Every arena that I walk into, I could walk in blindfolded to a group of 10 riders and I could say this statement and be right 90% of the time. I could say use your hands less and your legs more, and I would be right 90% of the time. Every time you pull assertively on your horse's face, you distract from your level of communication with him. You want to be able to sit up here and stay balanced. We talked about that. Keeping your feet positioned, keeping your shoulder up, keeping your hands low and slow. Never get snatchy with your hands. If you start getting snatchy with your hands, I promise you, your horse is going to start bouncing his head up like that. When he starts doing this, he's reacting in fear because of the pressure on his face. And you're saying, I didn't do it that hard. You'd be amazed how light some horses are. Some horses don't need much to be what they consider being snatched on, okay? So as I ride, and I'm working a lot at a lope here because I find that most people don't, and I want you to. I want you to be confident working at a lope. So I keep my hands together. They're handcuffed. Now when I want to make my circle smaller, I use my outside leg and my inside hand. Watch my hand. That's how much it moves to make my circle smaller. And my outside leg. Now I want to make my outside circle bigger. I use less leg and ride to it, okay? But I keep those hands together. Now I want you to watch when we stop, because again, your hands are critical. I relax, whoa, lift that hand. Do you see what that lift was? Right there. There wasn't a big sudden movement. I love John Wayne movies, but if you watch True Grit, when he's rushing the girl to the hospital and he's driving the team, as he comes into the little cabin where the doctor is, he hollers "Shaw" and "Whoa" and pulls on the lines at the same time. Makes for a great movie, but you can't ride like that because it's not giving your horse any warning. He has no idea where we're going or what's coming next, and horses need to understand where we're going. They need to know what the plan is, and if they know that, they will perform for you all the time to the best of their ability, okay? So as I lope off here, my hands tied together, handcuffed together, right here. One of the exercises that I did with a young rider one time, you want to be careful how you do this, but I used one strand of sewing thread, not yarn, not baling twine, nothing that could get them hurt. One strand of horsehair from your horse's tail. Tie your wrist together with about 6 inches slack between them at the most. If you break the strand of horsehair or sewing thread, then your hands are moving way too much. You need to get your hands still and quiet. You watch here as I'm loping around. There's lots of slack. Induces bridle. We're nice and quiet. My shoulder is up. There's weight on my feet. That moves us to our last exercise. Your eyes. I want you to ride your horse with your eyes. Right now I'm looking straight at the camera. Now I've already looked across the circle the other direction. I ride my horse with my eyes for this reason. Your eyes will take your horse where you want to go. I want to make the circle smaller. Watch my hands. Watch my hands. My circle's getting smaller. My hands aren't moving. My eyes are. My circle's getting much smaller. My eyes and my outside leg are making that circle smaller. My circle's going to get bigger. Watch my hands. They didn't move much. What happened instead is my eyes. My eyes take this horse where I want him to go. I move him up here, and I look where I want him to go. One of the things that is absolutely amazing to me is if you keep your eyes up, your butt stays down. It's that simple. Watch what happens. I'm going to ride this way, and I'm not going to do it on purpose, but I guarantee you, you're going to see it. you're gonna see all of us ride like this nowadays. We're so intent on trying to get our horse's nose soft that we've started riding like this. When you ride like this, your butt comes up out of the saddle and you can't see where you're going. So your horse doesn't have any idea where he's going. Instead of loping pretty circles, he starts zigzagging in and out, doesn't know where he's going. Your butt comes out of the saddle, you run over your friends, okay? So make that change of direction, lope off, fix the lead, be diligent. 3 strides on the wrong lead is your fault, fix it, okay? If you don't understand leads, that's another question, get someone to help you with it. All right, so eyes up. I'm loping where I want to go, eyes down. Now I'm looking at my horse's nose, my butt naturally comes out of the saddle, my riding quits being smooth, I have no idea where my horse is going. Eyes up, I can take him where I want to go and enjoy the scenery along the way. And you will notice your loping will be so much more secure. Your trotting will be more secure. Everything you're doing will go so much better because you have taken the initiative to change your riding. You have made up your mind, I'm going to do something a little bit different in what I'm doing, and I'm going to practice these 4 exercises. And they're pretty simple, right? We're going to recap. Weight on your feet, heels down, toes out. Weight on your feet. If this horse jumps left, I'm going with him because my weight is centered. I had 2 guys in my barn the other day take a 2x6. We took a 50-pound sack of grain, sat it on the 2x6. I had them move the 2x6 quickly, the grain fell off. We took the same 2x6, the same sack of grain. We laid the grain over this way with about 25 pounds on each side. Those same 2 guys couldn't get rid of the grain because the balance was down low. It had a low center of gravity. When you ride, you need to turn into that grain sack and push your weight down into your stirrups. The next thing we worked on is keeping your shoulder up. Keeping yourself upright and getting out of your horse's way. Allow that horse to move out from underneath of you. When I work that 360 turnaround, I keep that shoulder up. When I change directions, I keep that shoulder up. Move that horse back around there, nice and soft and pretty. That allows your horse freedom of movement on his inside shoulder, okay? The next thing we talked about, your hands low and slow. I can't say that enough. You've got to get your hands handcuffed together and down quiet and slow. I know, I ranch for a living, and I know there's days when the cows are going the wrong direction and every one of us goes, whoa! It happens, I don't care who you are. But you want to build habits so it doesn't. You want to practice these habits at home. Lastly, ride with your eyes. Remember, eyes up, butt down. When you ride with your eyes, I see people trail riding at a walk like this. My goodness, what are you seeing? Your horse's chin. I trail ride to see the countryside. I have been that person. I had to learn. I had a lady tell me one time, Ken, you have no idea the emotional ups and downs that people go through when they're learning. I looked at her, I said, Val, you're right. I was just born knowing all this. God gifted it to me from birth. Of course not. I learned it all the same way you do. I had to learn it the exact same way. So eyes up, seat down, and you're gonna look where you're going and it's gonna change your riding forever. You know, initiative's a funny thing. It's a choice that you make. I know people who say, well, he's a workaholic. You know what? Even workaholics have things they don't like to do and don't want to do, and they make a conscious decision to do those things. My dad, for instance, is a workaholic. I've never seen a time when my dad wasn't going 900 miles an hour. At 71 years old, I still don't attempt to keep up to him. He is the Energizer Bunny. But you know what he told me one day? He said, Ken, I work hard and I work cheap, but I do it my way. That's because there's things he doesn't like to do. Initiative is the decision we make to do more. It's the decision we make to say, I'm going to get up early, I'm going to do what it takes to ride my horse. I had a lady, a dear lady, tell me not long ago, she said, I wish I could ride more, but I just don't have time. I gave a flippant answer, but it was a very sincere and true answer. My answer was, You have the same 24 hours everybody else has in their days. It determines how you just determine how you use them. And sometimes we do. We have family crises and things come up and we don't get to ride, and that's all fine and dandy. But initiative is you saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever my goals are in life. Not just riding. Riding is secondary to many of your goals in life. I'm going to take the initiative to be kind and reach out to the people around me and change the world I live in. I'm going to take the initiative to go down to the homeless shelter and help change those people's world. Initiative, that's a conscious decision that we make. Nobody is born just successful. Nobody is born guaranteed happiness. Those are decisions that we make. It's the same in our horse training. We can ride along on a horse that doesn't stop, doesn't turn, isn't soft, and risk our life, or we can take the initiative to change the way we ride. When I give these character traits, I hope you understand I'm talking as much to myself as I am to anybody. These are things that each of us need to work on and master in our lives, and they're things that I think are critical in our horse training. I hope you enjoy this show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. You know, we've been on the air 10 years, and it has been a blessing every week. And we thank you as our viewers for your loyalty, and we look forward to meeting you on the road somewhere. Until then, may God bless the trails you ride.
One true.
Find out more about Ken McNabb horsemanship at kenmcnabb.com.
That one true horse, the perfect partner built to ride. One true horse, a bond that cannot be denied. You would search forever just to have the chance to take a ride on one.